Is blindness a barrier? No.
Is deafness a barrier? No.
Are mobility, learning, cognitive disabilities, speech impairments and others, or even a combination of them, barriers? No way. Lack of accessibility is.
Welcome to Web Accessibility for All.
Follow the blind. This journey starts now.
All right, Mr. Lopez, let's go over your test results. The good news is...
Doctor, the lab courier needs your signature real quick.
Maria, please. I'm in the middle of a consultation. Close the door. Now, as I was saying, your results came back very encouraging. You'll just need to...
Oh, and the delivery guy says you still owe $10 for the coffee.
Fine. Tell him to keep the change. Please, Maria, the door. Okay, let's focus. You'll start your treatment next week and...
Doctor, the coffee guy says he found your receipt.
For heaven's sake, I'm busy. Do I need to hang a sign that says, "Do not disturb"?
Sorry, doctor. Should we start all over again?
When we, as developers, trigger new announcements, a toast here, a live update there, the screen reader tries to keep up, maybe interrupting itself mid-sentence. What could have been a calm, linear conversation suddenly can become a chaotic chorus of voices competing for attention. Hey my friend, Ariel here, and welcome back to Web Accessibility for All. If you are a developer, chances are you've never had to tame the chaos of a web page that's constantly changing. But there's one tiny ARIA attribute that promises to bring order to that mess. Today we are diving into aria-busy to find out why good intentions aren't always enough, and how this little attribute can make or break the experience for assistive technology users.
Screen reader chaos. Why good intentions aren't enough.
Alright, picture this. You are a screen reader user, okay? And you are in a chat web app. Your screen reader is announcing an important message that just arrived. But then, while it's still talking and while you are listening to it, suddenly interrupts itself and starts rattling off a new notification, like it's had free espressos too many.
Message from, loading message from loading complete.
Every time the UI re-renders without the user consent or control, it tries to announce incomplete messages.
Loading message from.
What's happening here?
Well, it's chaos born from good intentions. Developers wanted to make it dynamic, reactive. And yes, they care about accessibility, but this is not just an annoying experience for screen reader users. It's cognitively exhausting for them.
Meet aria-busy, your tool for calming the chaos.
It is a small ARIA attribute that quietly says to assistive technologies,
I'm not done updating yet. Please hold your announcements.
You add it to any element that's about to change its content dynamically, a chat window, a results list, or even a section that's loading new data. While aria-busy is set to true, the screen reader holds off on announcing changes inside that region. When the process finishes and you flip it back to false, all those updates become fair game again. Let's see some code now.
Less section. aria-busy equals true greater. Content being updated. Less/section greater.
Very simple, huh? Once everything's loaded, you set it back to false, and the screen reader knows it's safe to resume announcing updates.
Less section. Aria-busy equals false greater. Content is ready. Less/section greater.
It's elegant and invisible. Yet when you use it right, it prevents confusion and frustration for screen reader users who rely on light regions to understand what's happening in dynamic interfaces.
Why Aria Live Polite doesn't solve the problem?
Because Ariel Live Polite simply queues announcements. It doesn't stop them from happening while a new one is still being generated. If your component is updating rapidly, a polite region may still read every intermediate state.
And what about Aria Live Assertive?
Assertive updates are guaranteed interruptions. They cut off whatever the screen reader is already saying. That might sound efficient, but the user loses context and important information can vanish mid-sentence.
Beyond live regions, when and where to use aria-busy.
Now here is where many developers go wrong. They assume aria-busy is only for live regions, like chat messages or notifications. But in reality, it's a powerful way to communicate any asynchronous update to assistive tech. Partial page refreshes, infinite scrolling content, react or view re-renders, or even a loading overlay while new results are being fetched.
Okay, so if I turn aria-busy on, does that mean all my Aria Live messages get silenced? What if I want to alert the user about something else during that time?
That's exactly where things start to get interesting.
How aria-busy handles scope and focus.
When a region becomes busy, screen readers temporarily hold back any new announcement coming from inside it. But here's a trick. That pause applies only to the element marked as busy and its descendants. Live regions outside of it are still active. So if your app has a global roll alert elsewhere, that one can still shout, even while the busy section is doing its thing.
What if the element with aria-busy true has focus?
Good one. Let's say a user's keyboard or screen reader focus is inside that area while it's being updated. If focus stays inside a busy region, the element technically remains visible and interactive, but assistive technologies defer updates from it. So if content changes around the focused element, the user won't hear about it until you toggle aria-busy to false. The purpose is to prevent confusion, not freeze the experience.
The human cost of UI notifications chaos.
All these technical stuff, attributes, patterns, it might sound abstract, but when they're missing, it's not just code that breaks. It's focus, it's comprehension, it's patience.
You know, sometimes I try to read an article online, and the screen reader just keeps jumping around. I start following a paragraph, then, suddenly, new message received. A second later, connection lost. And before I can even process that, it says, new message received. It's like 3 people talking to me at once, all convinced they're saying something important. I lose the thread. I can't focus. Sometimes, I just stop listening. Because if the website can't wait a second to finish one thought before starting another, why should I?
Attention is fragile. When you mark a section with aria-busy to true, you're not silencing the web. You're just asking it to wait a second to let one voice finish before the next one speaks.
The number one anti-pattern.
A developer's first instinct is often to go too broad. They'll drop aria-busy to true on a massive container, an entire landmark like main, the app's root deep element, or even the body tag itself. They think they're pausing the whole app. But the problem is, screen readers interpret that as the entire world is in flux. This can lock the user out. Worse, you're not just silencing the changing content, you're blocking the user from accessing all the stable, static content within that same container. So, apply aria-busy only to the specific dynamic region, never to the whole page.
The VoiceOver dilemma, when aria-busy is ignored.
Alright, but what about VoiceOver? I've heard it doesn't handle this consistently.
Ah, yes, VoiceOver tends to ignore aria-busy more often than it should, while NVDA and JAWS usually respect it and wait patiently. VoiceOver sometimes just keeps talking as if it never saw the sign on the door. Well, hang in there, because aria-busy isn't the only tool. Sometimes we need something stronger.
The modern fix, pairing aria-busy with Inert.
Okay, I think I got it. aria-busy tells screen readers, hold on, don't announce new stuff yet. But what if I need to really freeze things like during a loading overlay?
That's when we can invite another attribute to the party. One that's not polite, but firm. Meet Inert. While aria-busy whispers to assistive tech, Inert goes a step further. It takes the element out of the accessibility tree entirely. No focus, no navigation, no announcements.
Wait, so it's like saying, don't even look at this part of the page?
Yes, but here is the important part. Visually, the content is still there. Users can see it on the screen, but they can't tab into it, click it, or have it read aloud.
So, aria-busy hides something temporarily from the ears. And Inert hides it completely from the hands and ears, but not the eyes, right?
You got it. And that's why, when aria-busy isn't fully respected, some developers use a graceful fallback pattern that combines both.
Less section. Aria-busy equals true. Inert greater. Less p greater. Loading new content, please wait. Less/p greater. Less/section greater.
When the content is ready, we flip both back.
Less section. Aria-busy equals false greater. Blank. Less Inert removed dynamically greater. Blank. Less p greater. New content loaded. Less/p greater. Less/section greater.
This hybrid pattern silences supported screen readers and prevents premature user interactions on platforms that ignore aria-busy. Now, that's not officially part of the WAI ARIA Authoring Practices Guide, but in the real world, this pairing is one of the few ways to keep VoiceOver in line with how other screen readers behave.
From chaos to clarity.
That's what aria-busy is really about. Not performance, not optimization, just respect. Respect for time, for attention, for the people who listen word by word. Sometimes accessibility isn't about adding more, but about knowing when to say, not yet. If you found this episode helpful, share it with someone who builds, tests, or designs for the web. Let's keep improving how we communicate with assistive tech, one polite pause at a time. And if you want to support this podcast, just spread the word, because knowledge shared is accessibility multiplied. See you next one. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us today. Subscribe for a new challenge next week. And don't be shy. Leave us a review or ask your accessibility questions online. See you next week for another episode of Web Accessibility for All.